The top secret Wave Rover time machine is activated by this little button. It worked! Well, Rovers, I've activated the time machine for a few reasons. One, of course, is to show you where I am right now, and as you can see behind me, the decks are going in. Now, this did not go anywhere near as fast as I had hoped because there's really a lot going on back there. That's A, and B, this is a prototype, so I'm developing sort of a manual, if you will, on how to build a 650 if you've been watching all the videos. So there's a number of sequences I'm trying to work out. For example, the decks have all been coated with S1 on the underside, as have all the compartments. Also, there's a few other developments back aft that I'll show you in a minute. Anyway, there's a sequence that must be followed if you're going to efficiently build this, and that's what I'm trying to do. Now, many of you might be wondering, why is this project not moving along at a faster pace? Well, part of the reason is that I've been living in a 12 by 12 foot room with Mrs. Rover in the back of my shop, and I had promised her that I would build her a house before I set off on the circumnavigation. And now that spring is here and the ground is no longer frozen, I've been able to get the house construction underway. Now, this doesn't mean that the boat is no longer being constructed. There are lapses in time when I have to wait for other trades or material to arrive, and that's the time that I'm working on the Wave Rover 650. Now, as many of you know, I teach carpentry at the local technical college, and many of the students have taken an interest in my project and are going to be coming up on their days off to give me a hand. Now, in the last Wave Rover Time Machine episode, you would have seen that I had removed the angular doghouse, and in its place I've put this curved cabin top. And, you know, that really is pleasing to the eye, I find. Andy, the architect, he also likes it. And the Builders Group. Now, the Builders Group are a bunch of Wave Rover 650 builders. They're all over the world. And we get together on a private Facebook group and we talk about changes and ideas. And everybody seems pretty pleased with the curved top. But the idea of a dome came up. And it's a pretty good idea, I think. Although I may or may not implement it until I see what visibility is like through the port lights, and that's part of the reason I wanted to show you this latest animation. On this animation, you see where the port lights are going to be located on my 650, and I'll just see what the visibility is like through them before implementing the dome idea. But it's an excellent idea nonetheless. Now, I had mentioned at the beginning, before putting the deck on, it's a great time to get some other work done before the area is all closed up. So this is the backing plate for what will be the series drogue chain plate, and I'll glue that up right now. This is one of those times where I'm using all the extra space I have until I get the deck on to accomplish, some much needed improvements here. So deploying the drogue is really straightforward, and I always keep it ready to go. Before I head off to sea, it's ready to go. So it's in this blue bag that we just saw in the previous frame. It's all coiled up neatly so that it will go out not in a knot or a bunch. It'll go out very smoothly, and it's important to pack it carefully like that. But the drogue itself gets attached to a bridle that goes off the stern. The bridle is this piece right here, and there's a brother piece over on the other side. They're attached very stoutly to this heavy piece of stainless, and this heavy piece of stainless is through bolted through the hull transom joint, which is one of the strongest places on the boat. If you try taking a drogue or even a sea anchor and just putting it through a regular chock onto a regular cleat, it's not going to last. And the reason is because when you're in a seaway, and let's say you had a sea anchor astern and you have your boat ahead, if they both rise up on a crest, there'll be a big loop of rope between the two, and then as you come down off of that wave or that swell, all that weight is taken up instantly. So whatever the weight is, and in Wave Rover's case it's 5,500 pounds, is all of a sudden put on one little cleat that's attached to a little bit of fiberglass. It's really a recipe for a failure. Now, before closing in the area of the after deck, it's also a great opportunity to get some S1 or some other wood sealer, epoxy wood sealer on all the surfaces, because once you get the deck glued on, then that area is pretty tight to be painting. Not impossible, but just a lot more difficult, needlessly difficult. So in this case, I'm using a product called S1. And it's a very thin epoxy sealer, and I'm going to put 2 coats on all the surfaces, both of the underside of the deck and also all the areas inside the boat. Now, I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everybody that Sailing Wave Rover primarily is a sailing channel at heart. Now, to that end, I want to give away 3 copies of the Mark III self-steering gear plans. So what is the Mark III? Well, the Mark III is a VANE self-steering gear that's attached to a trim tab on your rudder. And I call it the Mark III because this is actually the 3rd version of self-steering gear that I've designed, and it's by far the most successful. It's built on the strength of those past designs. Now, the Mark III sailed Wave Rover almost 8,000 nautical miles through all kinds of weather. And I've been selling the plans on a site. I'll put a link in the video description, and there's been close to 300 people who've bought the plans and built their version of the Mark III. Now, recently I received some pictures and video from Jim in the United Kingdom, who tested his version of the Mark III that he built, sailing 400 nautical miles from Southampton in the UK to Cardiff in Wales. And as Jim said, it took 4 days with every kind of weather, and the Mark III steered faultlessly. Thanks for sharing that with us, Jim. Now, I'm going to have a contest, and the winner of the contest, there'll be 3 winners, will each get a full set of plans for the Mark III. And the Mark III, if you remember, that was the steering gear I developed for the first Wave Rover, and it just worked out to be really marvelous, and now hundreds of them have been built. This boat was designed with the Mark III totally in mind, and in many ways, the bilge keels, which serve so many other purposes, are there because they will help Wave Rover track well in addition to the Mark III steering. So that was always an important concept at the design. In fact, it was one of the main criterias that I gave Andy when I was asking him to develop the lines for Wave Rover. So the contest is, you have to go back to season 1. You have to tell me which video, which episode you enjoyed the most. And the episode that gets the most hits, those names will go into a hat, and Mrs. Rover will pull out the names of the 3 winners. That'll happen in 2 weeks' time. So get out there and take a look at those episodes and let me know which one you think was the best. And it wouldn't hurt to say why you thought it was the best. Now, when you go to enter that entry, let's call it, you do so by just making a comment in the comments below this video, and start off your comment with the episode number of the episode you liked. That'll help me greatly in defining, which episode was most liked. Now, like I said, there will be 3 prizes. All 3 are the same, so we have 3 winners, 3 true winners. So good luck to everyone, and let's have some fun. I'd like to take a moment to honor the Wave Rover benefactors. So what is a benefactor? Well, these folks have made a contribution of $100 US or more to the project, and their names will be affixed to a bulkhead inside Wave Rover and will be traveling with me on our circumnavigation. Now, these donations truly are much appreciated. Now, just a little teaser of some of the things that we'll be seeing in upcoming episodes. I went to the University of Prince Edward Island, where a good friend of mine, Dr. Brian Smythe, who's taken an interest in our project and is a professional engineer, has designed a slightly different version of keels for me, and we use the water jet cutter at the university to cut up patterns for all of the keels. It's very interesting, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with everybody. So until next time, Rovers, thanks for watching. Well, the Wave Rover patrons, with their pledges of support, really do make the creation of these videos possible. Now, if you'd like to know more about Wave Rover's patron page and benefactors bulkhead, I have links to both those pages in the video description. Now, another way to help Wave Rover, and it doesn't cost you a dime, is by sharing our content on your social media. So now, as always, Rovers, thanks for watching. Give us one more. Brilliant.